Any other bits that I need to start setting up? Well, let's go for it. So we're going to go have a conversation with some folks. Be interesting.
Oh,
I'm
man.
just trying to stay nice and cool. It's very hot here.
Why are you talking like that, man?
What do
I've never heard you speak like that.
Oh, it's nice to hear you laugh.
That's weird. My profile just did a laughing emoji by itself. Has that happened to
Yeah,
you?
actually, I've been noticing.
Maybe you got Neuralinked.
Huh. Anyway,
Every time I scroll down the screen, it pops a fake emoji, and I've seen all the tech nerds that are basically putting those Windows add-ons
They being rational.
on their profiles and basically using all the peace signs and the music signs
well,
and
I've
the
seen
star
that.
signs
Yeah.
that are made. They're like, oh my god, this must be some special expo.
Yeah, right.
They are such nerds.
Why
Now all you
people
have to know how to
talking
do is recode with the fact.
And you just DM them a picture with like middle finger or something. Never mind. Yeah.
Yeah, they really do need like the middle finger emoji to be able to throw it up, and then the throw up face emoji.
Oh
needs to
my
be-
Just
I need the
God.
face palm one. That's what I need.
Oh my god, yes. Face
They need
palm, throw
ass
up
cheek emote.
emoji. I would love the throw up emoji. Just
I was gonna say the eye roll emoji.
oh my god, yes, the eye roll emoji. I would just be
There's
throwing those up.
already enough sarcasm on here. We
The
don't.
Yes, yes, we need as many condescending emojis as we can
Yeah,
get.
I mean,
we
really.
need as many
Those as we can
condescending
toss.
emojis as
Thank
possible.
you.
Footlong.
Ulcers, and I actually had a hole ripped in my stomach.
Yeah,
Oh,
but
helps.
he's got
At 20 when I was
he's got
25.
indigestion.
No,
Oh boy,
I had to have
these are just getting
endoscopy.
worse.
I had to have endoscopy
You're
and
doing drinking
colonoscopy at
or
25.
That's not
What'd
good.
you say, Lizard?
Alright, so there are quite a few people talking over the top of each other. I would prefer it not to be like that. Thank you very much. And I would like to welcome Freemasonry. He is the one I invited to kind of talk about our homelessness situation and streaming it to YouTube and all that. So that's my announcement, and kind of we'll probably finish up some ending topics, and then we'll get him to jump in.
Yeah, right on. No, I was just telling Ascendo to try marshmallow root because it is one of the most soothing things for the digestive system if you're having issues.
She's
It's
very
alright.
quiet this
It's alright. My health can wait. She is a guest.
I know. I was just finishing up. She said finish up.
I'll be over here, just clinging on to life. Don't worry about me. Go ahead.
You know I love you. I hope
I'm just kidding. Just being emotional.
Yeah, sensitive lately, aren't you, Achendo?
I've got my tissues right here.
Oh my god. Okay. Welcome Freemasonry, and I would love to. Hi.
Howdy, partner.
Hope you have a healthy stomach.
Yes, I noticed
How you
I
doing?
noticed there's a lot of
Yeah,
Americans
for
in this
sure.
chat.
Yeah, no problem.
Hey, Freemasonry, I've heard you've been selling us out.
Hey, that sounds like alpha.
I gotta say,
yeah,
completely
yeah.
unrelated, everyone has so many different ranging volume levels, and it can be a little jarring when like someone is like, okay, that's loud, I'm gonna turn it down, and then the next person talks, I can't hear a fucking thing.
Sound check.
Is mine loud?
Yeah, sound check, sound check.
Yeah, is mine loud?
Yours is quiet.
Okay, so I don't know if I was wondering if I need to move the phone closer or further from me. Okay.
Closer.
Okay, like this. I'm kidding.
That's at least somewhat better, yeah. Yeah, so I'm here to talk about homelessness, just to sort of establish some sort
Are
of.
you a homeless guy?
I
You're
am.
talking about yourself being homeless on X Space now. We know.
Alright, y'all fucking stuff your side remarks, alright? Like, fucking hell. I invited him to fucking talk about a serious topic. Y'all need to stop giving him jabs, because this is actually productive, probably fucking information for everyone to listen to. Probably, like, not as relative to the Americans, but it is relative to fucking Australia.
Hey,
There's
can
a
you talk with an
question
Aussie accent?
Question of credibility if he's selling us out, though.
Didn't even make it through one sentence. Give the
Did he say he was homeless?
I, jeez, man. I never thought I would be the one to say, can people maybe take their ADHD medication? So
Appeal to authority, a use of mental health. Yes, very typical.
Okay, Freemasonry round 2. Here we go.
Alpha, I just want to start off from the bat so that we can
Yes,
set
please
the
introduce
tone.
yourself
So
to the
we can
space.
set the tone. Was that a genuine thing there, or was that just a bit of a joke? Because if that was a joke, that's chill, and I'll keep going.
No, it's interesting that you actually did 2 out of 2.
Oh, okay, so you genuinely believe it. Okay, so I'm probably just going to do a lot of ignoring of Alpha, but that's okay.
I was gonna say, if people keep talking shit, I'm gonna drop him to listener, and I'm just gonna have fucking Freemasonry and a few people.
Nazi, you Nazi.
Yeah, I know, I am a fucking Nazi, and I'll act like one. Alright? I don't give a fuck. And you guys know that.
Pumpkin spice drinker.
Shut the fuck up, Freedom.
You better keep me as a speaker. I'll stay quiet. I'm cooking dinner.
I think we're learning about a lot of Tourette's diagnosis. But that's good. That's good. I'm glad that we're all learning. Okay. So to establish my authority on the subject.
Did you say most homeless have Tourette's?
So as I was saying, to establish whatever authority I can claim to have, because I don't believe I have the grand authority on the subject, but I do a lot of reading and I am very much involved in the topic, because just to lay it out very simply. By the way, actually, I was just going to quickly say I can post the link to my stream if others in. Yeah, I'll take that love heart as a affirmation of that. Anyway, so I for the past say about year and a half, sort of losing track of how much time now, have been going to in Brisbane, Musgrave Park. It is sort of like the known place for those who understand homelessness, like truly understand homelessness that is occurring in Brisbane. They will know and they will tell you Musgrave is the central location where services occur. So thus, you tend to have a lot of people who are homeless sleep there. This comes in all different forms where people are literally in like just a sleeping bag, to the more common you see in a park where it's tents and people sleeping in tents. Sometimes it's literally well, it used to be maybe like 2-3 years ago. There were a lot of stories of like families being in like a single tent, not like a single person tent, but nonetheless. Now it's more often you just sort of have people on their own or couples. Maybe there were a couple. I'm just posting the link here. Maybe they were a couple beforehand. Sometimes people become couples when they are homeless, because one thing I think that people don't talk a lot about when it comes to homelessness is, well, not that I don't think people talk about it, I just think people haven't really been approaching it the right way, is the mental health aspect when it comes to homelessness. Mental health should not be seen as something that discredits a homeless person, as in just because they're mentally ill, therefore we shouldn't have to give a fuck about what they think, how they feel, how their life is. However, just to land the plane, however, mental health, however, is very important in understanding why quite often the decisions that homeless people make, what they have to make, it helps you understand a lot as to why they make them, especially if there's something that, if it was a decision that to you, in a very convenient situation of living in a home, may not really understand why they would do that. So I'll just leave it at that for now, and yeah, people can, I don't know, throw questions out or whatever.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Freemasonry. Lizard people?
So my question is for the Freemasonry chap. So you do realize that the majority of finance and wealth is actually covered in Masonic lodges. And I was just wondering,
He's not a
what
Freemason, you
effect.
dipshit.
Hold on, mate. Hold on, mate. What are you doing in spaces, mate? Right now, my understanding is which religion or cult is actually covering
Sorry, could
the
we stick to the subject of
epidemic?
debate?
Yeah, look, Lizard. He like his tag
The
isn't his
hypocrisy.
actual. He's not in a Freemasonry fucking unit. He has made that clear in the past.
Unit.
I don't fucking understand. All right, like I don't
He's
talk
an
about.
opponent. He's an opponent to Freemason.
Yeah, I don't really talk about Freemasonry a lot. There's not a lot of sort of fucking basic understanding. The topic is homelessness and sort of like how it's affecting the demographic in Brisbane. I'm pretty sure, isn't that right, Freemasonry?
Well, I
Freemason
mean,
has triggered the flat earthers.
oh, good. What? Because did I acknowledge that the Earth was
Hey.
round in some weird
But the irony of a
simplistic way?
guy that has a handle named Freemasonry talking
Oh,
about
okay,
homelessness.
okay. We are
What's the
sticking on that.
hypocrisy of what
So
you're
I'm just
doing
going
there,
to
mate?
casually ignore you. That's
Yeah.
okay.
Hey, can I ask a question? I'm wondering the statistics for Australia homelessness. Like, what's going on out there?
Well, so I just wanted to quickly say I'm obviously only speaking, I can only really truly speak when it comes to my personal experience and what I've actually done when it comes to Brisbane. I've done quite a bit of journalism for, again, like past year at least of journalism um, on homelessness, and I only really talk about it within the context of Brisbane because it's more about um, the local bureaucracy, the local bullshit. However, what you tend to find in, say, Brisbane as a capital city is it's the exact same story in every other city. It's just you change out your names, you change out your faces, etc., etc. So the things that I would like say is like, oh, these are the problems, from this side of things, and this is the problems on this side of things. It's going to be the same case everywhere. But obviously, I can only really be like, yeah, I know what like the Brisbane police are like or whatever. As for what you were saying there with like Australia, I guess it was kind of like Australia versus America there. Um, like again, another case where things that we talk about here just as relevant to America. I think you see the exact same kind of problems happening in America. Sometimes it's like it almost feels like they're half a year ahead of us in some of the things that end up being done, for better or for worse. Uh, don't know why that is. Maybe it's we can, yeah, that's probably just whatever.
But for like, I meant like statistically, like what's the amount of homeless that y'all are seeing, and it in every city in Australia? Because in America, it's only in some states, and then some states have programs that actually help the people.
So, yeah, I don't know. I'm not too familiar with the statistics in America. Though from what I've seen, I would actually it homelessness is not a thing where like it happens in some states of a country and it doesn't happen elsewhere, or it happens in some cities and it doesn't happen elsewhere. You like a city or whatever could theoretically have a bunch of policies that are really good when it comes to dealing with homelessness that really, you know, makes a noticeable dent in the statistics. But I think it would be pretty difficult to say that there doesn't exist any homelessness in the state or the city itself. It's one of those things where it'll just, as long as we have a concept of living in a house, we'll always have a concept of living out of a house, of living outside of a house, sorry. One thing that I think we also kind of forget, though, is there was not a long time where it was quite normal for people to just not actually have a house, in the sense of Aussies will in the chat will recognize like the famous song Waltzing Matilda, the swag man who ends up dying at the end because he jumps into the river to escape. He was literally homeless. Like when you read through read through the lines, that's what he was. He was a swag man. That's what swag man meant because he didn't have a home, and they were seen as a lot less civilized, a lot less well, we would now see it as mentally well, but back then it would be like, a very disturbing nature or whatever. These were basically just homeless people, but we didn't really see them as homeless yet because the concept of a home was not the same as it is now. Um, so that isn't to
Back
say
to the
like, oh,
topic of the homeless falling in love. Do they mate for life?
Oh god. They're not penguins. I will like to say, Alpha, do you have a question on or related to this topic or a comment on this topic?
I was just going to ask if the collective noun for Freemasons is a blockchain.
I will remove you.
that's not even a good one, man. Come on now.
Yeah, come on, guys. Let's be respectful of Rational space. Like we're here to listen to a discussion. And Rational announced that she said if you didn't want to be, you could drop down to listener. She announced that Freemasonry was going to be given some information.
Well, I mean, even I don't care if people every now and then jump in. It's just you got to say something funny at least. It's got to make it worth it our time.
Well,
Um,
I'm signing off now. I think host's doing a great job as a young stoner Aussie chick.
Stoner.
That's great. Kurt.
I love it because you tried saying that like ages ago, Alpha, but I'm pretty sure it hasn't stuck. You know, like go on, fucking make more comments about people that you know nothing
Alpha,
about.
Alpha, what's negative about being a stoner?
I was
Oh,
just about to say
she just
thank you, Sid.
sounds. She just sounds stoned. Okay, that's fine.
You know, it's fun. No, I'm not going to even. So
Have
I
fun.
know,
See you later.
and I'm happy to now like steer it more in the direction at least I see actually some other people had hands up, so I don't want to just jump
Sorry, I
into a
just
new
have an
part.
idea. Freemasonry, did you want to pop up as co-host and then you can just
Yeah,
mute people and continue
actually,
talking?
yeah, by all means. I noticed I had a thing. Okay, is that like an invite to it?
Yeah, that's an invite to co.
Okay, yeah, because I did
Yeah.
see that earlier, and I didn't know if it was just randomly allowing me to do that. I was like, I'm not gonna just rudely like jump in and take over that level of power. Like, I'll let them tell me.
So I'm guessing you've never been invited to co.
No, no. I'm very new to all this
Oh,
shit.
Respect your new powers, though, Freemason. You can actually evict people from the space. So
Yes, okay, yeah.
if Kurt pisses you off, then you can fucking banish his fucking ass forever.
We'll see
I
now.
mean, I'm
That
pretty sure he
would
already
That's
make them
left.
it
space
brings up
homeless.
it brings up the real question. Would it mean that I am a Freemason for like intentionally kicking people out, or would it mean I'm less of one because I don't want people because I'm preventing people from hearing the good word? Like,
Oh god.
it's a level of
Oh.
selling that, you know. Um, I see Bender has hand up, and I'd be
Yeah.
eager to hear
Hi,
from him.
Bender.
Hey, how you going? Some Seppo asked before what rate of homelessness is there in Australia. Late August of last year, it was 200,000, with 6 to 10,000 added every month. But then the government changed the definition of homelessness to rule out couch surfers and people sharing accommodation. So
Mm.
the number could be very much higher.
Yes, actually, if it's all right for me to jump ahead, uh, yes, that is a rather under discussed aspect of homelessness, just as in general. I'm not gonna just run out there and go, oh yes, the couch surfer homelessness is much larger than the other amounts because that's kind of the problem, as Ben correctly pointed out. You can't really now track that information as much. And a lot of people won't like the kind of people who are in a situation where it is homelessness, but you're just couch surfing. A lot of people don't want to admit it. You know, like why would you? It's seen as such a horrific, like a horrible thing, a horrible situation to be in, and like it is, of course. But and you know it's a great idea to try and, I think, tackle the idea of the stigma where, you know, shouldn't feel as bad, therefore to want to be more willing to ask for help or to talk about this. But at the same time, let's be real, like there's a certain level of shame that's always going to exist there. And I think the only thing we can
Couchabunga.
okay. Um uh, uh Oh fuck, there was another thing I was going to say in regards to the couch surfing thing. Because yeah, that's only just the first level of homelessness. That's what it was. So there's actually three stages of homelessness. Couch surfing, I think also even just like staying in your car is considered as technically like couch surfing or whatever is considered like first level homelessness. You know, you couldn't get into a new place, a new rental, and so you're doing the best you can. The next level is you're basically out on the street, like you're not like gone, but in some form you're living out on the street. And the next stage, the last stage, the worst or whatever, is basically you're not only have you been out on the street for pretty well forever, even if you have tried all of the programs out there, all of the accommodation options, a lot of them which are only, well, dwindling in amount now. But besides that, a lot of them are only for considered for emergency. So you have to fit a definition of what's considered emergency, which depending on what the person is going through, it may be such a unique case where you're like, what the fuck? How is this not an emergency? Another thing is when you get in, a lot of times it's only like for 3 days, and then you're just back out on the street. Not that much of a difference in your life has fundamentally happened. Uh, in this third phase, even if you take all these, take up all these programs options uh, that are offered and whatnot, it's not going to matter. You are that mentally gone. And this is the real failure of government that like it's not just something that like Albo has done. It's not just something that ScoMo has done. Though they definitely have done their fair bits to obviously contribute to it or whatever. But this is something that has been happening since like the 90s, where we've just decided, nah, we don't care about public housing. And because of that, there are people I've met who literally were homeless in the 90s. And they, for a brief period, maybe were trying, like, just getting out, and they're back in it. And they've been back in it again for another, like, 5 or more years. And you have a convo with them, and you just talk to them like a normal person, and you're kind of like, oh, you seem fine. And then it can just take like a minute, and you start to realize like, oh, this person is not actually capable of looking after themselves anymore. And it's nothing on them. They have been living potentially for fucking 15 years or whatever, where their entire life is survival, and not just survival so they can keep lights on. That'd be nice. That'd be a dream to be able to worry about trying to keep lights on. It's like, what can I eat? What can I find for food that'll be able to be stored for more than today, but also be edible tomorrow? Uh, yeah. It's the third phase is like you're gone. And we just completely disregard the idea that there is that first one though.
Yeah, and it's just like it is kind of disgusting in how it's handled for one, and for two, it's just like a lot of people are just disregarded in general because of the situation. Like it's like they put it down to technicality that it's like, oh, technically these people aren't, and it's just disregarding and ignoring sort of like the seriousness. And in saying like on the food topic and saying like people actually sacrifice getting groceries just to stay in a home as well, and
Mm.
that's yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and that's also just a fucking problem. But in saying that, I'll also go to Pacific because I think Pacific has her hand up.
Hey, yeah, I'm wondering, since you've been doing journalism on the topic, like, what are your ideas? Like, what if you were, asked by your government? Like, what would you say to them to suggest to deal with the different levels of homelessness, like with the people too far gone and with the people who, actually have a prayer? Like, what would be your suggestions?
Um, well, let's see here. Uh, there's a lot of things. Okay, so the first thing I would honestly say, like, let's just say I somehow had a mouth to the ears of the sweet, sweet ears of Albanese right now. I mean, the first issue there, I mean, I know you're American, so you probably aren't familiar with this, but this kind of thing exists in America. Um, uh, Homelessness is not really considered an anything issue. It's like, I think, vaguely a state issue, as in like responsibility. People will be familiar with, like, oh, your councillor's responsible for the bins. Your councillor is responsible for traffic lights or shit like that, and then state is responsible for I'm trying to think of some like infrastructure. State is responsible for this and that. I honestly, there isn't actually anything for homeless. Like, as in, homelessness is not considered its own issue. It's not considered its own thing. Housing is state. But housing, like I've sort of already was saying before, with the public. Anyway, sorry. If I were to somehow have say to whoever could make a change, the first thing I would do is get rid of means testing, which is basically no one should have to meet some vague, arbitrary, often not yet and has not been updated for a long time criteria that has been established to say whether or not you can get into public housing. Uh, it just shouldn't be. It just shouldn't be like, oh, you earn too much or whatever, because quite often people will get caught out where they'll have entered their house with their like kids or whatever. They're like a struggling mum. They'll enter and then they'll be fined by the criteria. They'll improve their life finally, but they'll be like $17 over the limit, and they literally get kicked out. They get kicked out for $17 over the limit. I just fundamentally think that's disgusting. Uh, I just think anyone who is in the need for it will just they will like, if someone is currently not homeless, they're not looking for public housing. So I think it should just not be a matter of you have to meet some random criteria. Like, sure, maybe like citizen, but fair enough, fair enough. Especially because it's a lot easier to keep track of things that way, and to ensure that blah blah blah. But that I feel like is more of a, like, you need to do that just to get the application done, uh, more than anything. Another suggestion I would make is, honestly, land property should just it just shouldn't be a private thing. Like, I just think humans have proven we can't be responsible to privately own land and dish it out reasonably. People always end up being fucked over, and it always ends up being the case where more and more land is owned by less and less, fewer and fewer people who end up owning a whole fucking lot. And we have hugely privatized everything, and it's almost hugely privatized everything in Australia. Like, there are places in Australia, right? Like, I'll go back to Musgrave. All of the buildings around it, like, it's all skyscrapers, big stuff, and you're like, man, we're in the city. All Airbnbs, all fucking Airbnbs. It's ridiculous. Those are two suggestions I'd put there.
Yeah, that's definitely like a
Does
big.
anybody else? I'm sorry. Does anybody else think that not having private ownership of land is completely insane? Like, a farmer can't own his farm. Like, dude, are you fucking nuts?
Sorry?
So your whole thing with the no having private ownership of land, you're just like trying to like stir up the pot, right? You're trying to get somebody mad because you
No,
definitely
I
got me pissed
genuinely
off.
believe that human beings are too stupid. We have literally made it so that to own land the way that we've made it is such a overly complex, unnecessary bullshit thing that we've gone over and over and established millions of middlemen. We've established millions of middlemen who make fuckloads of money. The real estate agents, the agencies, the rental agencies, all this shit, just to justify people being able to own a house that they don't even live in. Nah,
Yeah, I
fuck
was
that
gonna
shit.
say, like, yeah, so it's more like kind of controlling that side of the market, right? It's just like there's too many kind of, I guess, companies or sort of like investors and stuff trying to like own the land and kind of like, you know, control that side, and just it kind of stops average sort of like middle class to lower class people to kind of actually sort of just live life normally. And
Yeah.
it's absolutely disgusting. I was also going to say at some point I would love for you to mention, because you said this in the first conversation I've had with you about this, that they kind of move the homelessness around to kind
Yes.
of give an
Yes.
illusion. So I'd
Mm.
love to touch on that at some point, but I think Beck has a comment.
Yeah.
Yeah, genuine question for Freemasonry. And the reason I ask is because my mum was in housing commission when I was growing up, and I'm just curious about what you said about if they earn too much, they get kicked out. Is that in like Australia wide, or is that just a state based thing? Because I'm pretty sure, like when I was growing up, when I got a job at 16, I had to pay the Department of Housing like a certain percentage of what I earned, but like they didn't kick you out in Victoria. So is that like that
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
just Brisbane or?
So, I will say what I'm speaking for in particular when it comes to like how much, I'm saying that with familiarity with Queensland, with the Queensland system. I would imagine it would be quite similar nowadays to states. What you're describing is how it used to be done. It's not done like that anymore, actually. That I would be more. I actually like the way that basically what you described, the old housing commissions system worked, where they basically just went off of your income and just went, all right, we're only charging you. I forgot the amount. It was like 30% or 20%, whatever it was. I think they changed it from here to there. Um, yeah, so they don't do it like that anymore. It's just straight up you earn too much. Which of its own, I've had people explain to me like, all right, well, this is the cap for me and my housemate or whatever, and this is how much we have to pay in rent, and it's literally like, okay, so you're now paying like 40% of that income, um, and that is just keeping you safe, like just below the number. Like these numbers, and it goes back to the fact that a lot of this stuff hasn't been updated since like the early 2000s or maybe like early 2010s. Um, it's not only solvable by just tweaking those numbers, but like that on its own would actually like do a lot.
So do you think there should be a cutoff though? Like, okay, so say for example, you're living in Department of Housing and you get a job, it's a well-paying job. Like, do you think there should be a cutoff that you, because see, this is a problem. Like I think, and I did notice this when I was younger. You end up having people taking advantage of the system, and then end up with people that are legitimately homeless, struggling to find a rental, struggling to find work that can actually afford a rental, especially in today's society. But you've got a bunch of people living in those houses already that are on like $1,500 a week. Do you know what I mean? Like, so is there a cutoff in your opinion that would be good? Like, you can only earn a certain amount before you're then moved on?
So, like I know I made a bit of a quippy joke way earlier when I said like, oh, no one who's not homeless at the moment or struggle or have at the risk of homelessness is going to be applying for public housing because, you know, the like the gall of having to try and find a place, blah blah blah. But that was mostly a joke. I do think there should be a cutoff of some kind. I just have no, like, I would never claim to have a set idea of what that should be. It's more so, I would say, like what you have. Again, it's the criteria actually that leads to people being allowed into a place or that allows them to stay that would otherwise not allow someone else. Where because homelessness, the amount of homeless people has gone they're actually needing to try. This is going to sound so fucked. They're actually needing to try and find people to kick out so they can bring in other people who are high risks, as in not just a risk to themselves, but a risk to society. And you know, just in the simple sense of like this person has become so mentally distraught or whatever that they're not in the same reality to us. They try and put all of the highest, worst cases into public and all the other there's private public ownership. That's another thing I would completely get rid of. Fuck the private public ownership stuff. But we can delve into that later. Um, they are so over encumbered with so many people who are extreme high risk. They're trying to get all those people in because that's the top priority. Because the idea is, okay, well, they're the most likely to crack. They are also the most likely to harm themselves. They are the most likely to just die. Uh, so we get them off the street first, priority. But then the problem is then you have people who they're not a high risk, like they're not a concern, but like they have some issues, like they're doing all right in the head, but like they've got problems and you can tell, and if it's not addressed, it'll be problems. Then they get thrown down another a whole new sort of rung of priorities, and this is the problem we're seeing here. So it's not even a matter of um sometimes it's not even a matter of certain people are like making well over like the criteria amount. Well, actually, what happened recently, the Queensland government announced that they were actually going to start enforcing whatever people would have over the limit. Because it wasn't being enforced as much. The reason why it wasn't being enforced as much is because the Department of Housing was well aware of how little supply of houses they had and how many people were on the street, and they were terrified about if they actually enforced this. Most of the people were only, again, over it by like $17, and then they'd be sending them out into homelessness. And so we're running into an issue where we have so many different factors relying on one another to just stay as best as we can try and get it, but it's not. It's in full decline. And so you don't
Yeah.
actually you don't see many of like people who are making well above whatever the criteria is. It's actually quite common. Those people get kicked out pretty quickly, actually.
In regards to moving the
So,
homeless around, do they do
uh,
it like all at once, like with the zombies on The Walking Dead?
I had a question pertinent to what he was
Scatterpods.
talking about. Um, so you're saying that they're prioritizing housing the ones who are the probably biggest risk to dying
Mm.
soon. So I'm wondering if that has anything to do with human trafficking and organ harvesting and stuff like that.
Uh, no, not really.
Because if
It's
they're housing the ones highest risk to die and then putting the other ones out to put them on the street again to make them go crazier, to make them a risk of dying. You see what I mean?
well, so
Yeah.
it's not so much like that. It's more so um, they will have someone who is like in the midst of huge mental break, and it's like assess like yeah, no, they're desperately in need. And it's not like, oh, they'll literally just go and find someone and go kick them out. But it's more like they are really running the numbers, trying to find wherever they can just to fit in some space. Um, so it's not like an active, they are trying to kick people out. Well,
I mean,
it's
you're
not
saying
like
they're
a concerted effort
prioritizing,
to kick people
yeah.
out. It's just an unfortunate byproduct of what they have to do in order to try and fit in people who are by the criteria that they are expected to. They are needed to be put in first. Which,
I was
like, I
also
don't
gonna.
necessarily disagree with. It's just the problem here is that the supply is so shit.
Yeah, I was also gonna say that it could also be sort of like a manage of like a population control tactic and all that sort of stuff, and kind of in a way
Well,
that they do.
so we can talk
Uh,
on that,
yeah,
and it leads into what I know you're more so wanting to get into, Rational, which is the idea of the police
yeah,
moving them around. So, yes, police heavily monitor the homeless. It's almost insane how much they do. It's often done through interactions becoming overly common for the with a particular homeless person. Maybe you found them at one point doing drugs. All right, is what it is.
yeah.
But then you find them steal something. They end up in the system. They come back out. They've got a record. You're very well aware of where they are. You're actually going to have to follow them. So they are monitored in a way. As for the moving people around part, because that's another whole they do that as a means of monitoring. So it's not like the police are actively actually themselves like throwing a bunch of homeless people into the back of a van and moving them. What we mean by that is So what's been happening here in Brisbane, Moreton Bay, and Gold Coast? It's the three particular councils here in southeast Queensland where they've been trying this new approach, where you see the councils, as I kind of mentioned before, homelessness is not a jurisdiction of theirs, and so they're trying this new idea where they go, okay, but public parks are, and we're trying to keep them clean and safe for everyone. Now, don't get me wrong, keeping them clean and safe would be great. That would actually help the homeless because a lot of the times they are the victims of whatever crime could ever happen. And
Yeah.
uh,
Sorry. Before you continue,
yep.
I would like to get to some hands. So the
Oh,
way
yep.
I'd love to do this is sort of like you kind of do a topic. If there's hands, like kind of do that question sort of like
Oh,
interaction.
yep. Sorry.
Yeah. That's all good. And I know it's like a bit, I said, loosely organized and stuff, and just kind of invite sort of conversation as well to kind of get more information or sort of like insight on, I guess, personal experiences or, and that sort of stuff. I know Libra had his hand up and Bender did, but I'm not too sure if he dropped out or left. But yeah, Libra. Um,
Is there a shelter system in place yet, or any plans for that? I'm just curious because we have
Um,
10 cities springing up. It's really sad.
yes and no, but if I were to delve into that, we'd be
Yeah, yeah, you're right.
jumping a
You're
few
right.
topics into the future, so we can get to that one.
Is it true they prefer to be called the unhomed?
Little people. No, I mean, homeless people don't really give a fuck. It's they're and like that's not even really a common thing. Most people don't really care
We
about.
don't like being called the swamp though.
So,
It's kind of funny. I mean, I didn't put my hand up, but nobody else has got their hand up either. I figured I'd chime in. I'm about to become homeless. I think tomorrow we're supposed to be signing the closing on this house that I own, and I don't have a place to go yet, but I guess I'll have some money. I've been through a lot of my life, but homelessness is not one of those things that I've done. It should be interesting.
I'm sorry, Urkel, but you kind of did drop a little bit at the end there. But I will go to picks for a second.
Yeah, I love that I hate that you've got this topic, but I love that you've got this open topic of discussion going on. It's horrible that we do have it. I'm on the south side of Brisbane, and there's a big impact over here in the Logan area as well. So I've been hitting the local council since last year and talking to a lot of people like residents around the area and the things that they've noticed. And I got in touch with the emergency housing listing, and we've got about 600,000 people just in Logan over here already on the emergency housing waiting list, still in those four categories that you spoke about, which are constantly shifting as well. And it is like an endless cycle because they haven't been building the housing and they have no intention of it either, because we've got the impact hitting schools and housing because a lot of these kids are showing up to whether it be their small time jobs because they're trying to help the family, or they're missing so much school and they're hitting other emergency sectors and red flags that seem to take a priority over getting them into a household and helping them learn how to get out of that bit by bit, day by day stretch in learning how to rebudget into the week as well.
100%. Yeah, no, it's one of those things where like in Australia, you know, you with like Medicare, having Medicare, we can debate back and forth, not right now, about like how good these things are. But the fact that we have things like Medicare and whatnot, it leads you to think that when you're in Australia, like, oh, if say you become homeless, you're like, oh, well, there must be something that's going to help me, right? Like maybe it's not going to be brilliant. Yeah, sure, I'll stick it out in a not so great place for a little bit just to get back on my feet. And you go to like Department of Housing is typically the first place you would go. It's literally called Department of Housing, and you end up really just getting, and I don't blame any person at Department of Housing for this, the people there in the office, that is, I mean, uh, the best options you have is just all of the little brochures they have, all the little brochures for all the little different charities, churches, community groups and whatnot. And don't get me wrong, that stuff's great. That stuff's great. But fuck, man, doesn't it make you feel like it does make you think like surely that like there's something we can do, right? Like surely it's not just this. Like surely this
Well,
is not all we
that's
have.
what I had my hand up to just interject there is those brochures there. Have you noticed that there's no
Oops.
Australians either? It's a lot of other agencies getting through the line. So if you've got someone from a humanitarian sector or business, they're going to push them through that housing line. You've got someone in the disability sector, they're going to push something there. There's no real balance and checks when it comes to this emergency housing line, and we do have a horrible running system, especially with numbers coming in. So we've started to get numbers in Logan from Melbourne, and we're looking at about 4,000 people every month on the minimum coming into Logan versus how many are actually coming into the Brisbane area.
Hmm. That's interesting. I am not familiar with those stats. That's interesting. Feel free to send me any about that, by the way. Because yeah, I don't actually even know that much about the south side, of Brisbane as much. It for me, it very much is Brisbane. Um, a little bit of
I'll
the north
happily
side.
send you information, but you research how you want to research on it. I won't give you my context of it. I'll just give you the hard information that I've
Yeah, yeah.
researched and we can go from there. But on the south side here, you'd actually probably get a fair few different statistics because the south side versus the north side of Brisbane, without coming off in the wrong context, and I'm just going to be straight out blunt with it, we have a certain color and race that hits the south side versus the north side a lot more up
Hmm.
this way.
Okay.
So when you look at when I say the brochures, for example, if you look at them, they're actually printed and depicted to certain people that they want to pick up those brochures. There's not really a helpful line there that accepts anybody picking up the brochure.
Yeah, for sure. And like that's why I said earlier on I'm in favor of no means testing because that's kind of what I really mean when it gets to the no means testing. Like income wise, yeah, okay, there probably should be some level, but that's such an arbitrarily decided. You'd like to think we'd be updating it year to year or whatever it has to be. But when I think of no means testing, it really is like it shouldn't come down to like are you an abused woman, or are you just a woman who became homeless? Like maybe we should just make it like, you don't need to have been like fucking had the worst shit happen to you or whatever, just so that you can get a house. Which isn't even that great. It's not even that great of a house. Yeah, so I'm obviously doing a bit of a specific example there, but yeah, that's why I don't like means testing. But and
Is
and
it
of course the obvious response to that would be like, oh, but how else do we make sure that we have enough for those who really need it? And then I go to which is why it's fundamentally a supply issue.
is it true if you catch a homeless, they have to give you their pot of change?
Um, I think you're
That's a
confused with.
leprechaun.
I was gonna say I think that's leprechauns, my friend. But you enjoy that rainbow. Shall I go to the thing about the police moving them around? Or do
Do
we?
it.
Sorry, I think I'm getting like a slight lagged response thing on my Twitter, but that's all right. We'll just go for it. But yeah, so something that happens, um, just speaking again, Brisbane specifically, um, well, actually, Musgrave specifically. So we have an event that happens at Musgrave called Panegyri. It's a Greek festival because there is a bunch of there's the Greek Orthodox Church right across the road from Musgrave. There's also right next to that I think it's just like a high-end restaurant that's called the Greek Club, and then a bunch of houses that are mostly owned, by the Greek Orthodox Church. Anyways, they do this event called Panegyri. It started off as just being in like, to put it simply, about a third of the space of the park. not an issue at all. No one cared. There used to be a sort of, because it's indigenous sacred land, there's been this sort of unspoken, well, not unspoken, a very much spoken rule of um, if you're doing a community event, you are doing it for free. And if you're doing it for free in Musgrave Park and whatnot, you don't really have to pay much of a fee to have to book the park because it's a community event. It's for everyone. Anyone can come. Great. And at quite a lot of community events, with the homeless folks there, they'll come. The event goers, whatever, they'll like they'll put on music for them. They'll bring food over to the homeless. Lots of people are fine. Pioneer, on the other hand, um, the organizers, the church, and the like all of this, the whole structure of their thing, very much in the bed with the local council LNP. And basically they just get all of your like your little benefits for free and oh, you don't even have to worry about asking. We've got that sorted for you. And so they get all just these nice little we rub your back, you rub ours, but we don't even have to rub yours anymore, because it's been such a developed relationship. And since post COVID era, like we're not talking COVID itself, but like 2022, Panieri has gone from a free, small-ish, very cultural, like Greek cultural event that was, yeah, free and accessible to everyone, to being a straight up corporate event. Like it's a carnival. It's turned into a carnival, like no joke. And it's like, man, we could just have a carnival otherwise. And it takes up now the entire park plus a street because it wants to have the street in between the park and their set of buildings on across the road, which not even that fussed about that, but they now want the whole park. Well, they now get the whole park, to put it simply. And because they get the whole park, and because it's got to be paid, they need to have fences up. But if they're going to have fences up, they don't want the homeless on the inside of the fences. So inevitably, we run into the case where they submit a plan to the council approves it, even though it's the council's responsibility in some form to ensure that there's not going to be any homeless people in the way. Oh, but there are in the way, maybe just by a couple meters or whatever. So what they do is they don't get the police specifically to go over and go, all right, mate, you're gonna have to pack your shit up, or we're gonna beat the fuck out of you, or arrest you, or whatever. We don't do that. We're very reasonable. What we do is we send either park rangers or we send just random council employees guarded by those cops, guarded by the amount of cops that would make you think that Bondi shooting was like not like they didn't have many there. And these council workers are just telling the homeless, you have to leave. I don't know what you're going to do, but you have to leave. And then the homeless person is like, but where do I go? I don't know, but you have to leave. But where do I go? But I don't know, but you have to leave. And so, as you can imagine, these situations get a little tense. And so eventually they get tense. The police are allowed to get involved now. And so that's how the police can be actively pushing on people um, without them having a policy of we kick the homeless out, because they only had to do it because it was done as defending the government worker. Now, I'm not saying I'm okay with, violence towards a government worker. If that's the case, that's not good. But these people do nothing as a means of de-escalating people. Now, I've already been talking a whole thing about like how bad it is to be homeless. As we can probably establish, they're not doing great in the head. You can't really bark orders at them and expect them to just follow them without anything. If anything, you should be expecting the fact that they're going to arc up at you. So that's the thing. They are wanting that result. They are looking for that response so that they have permission from the law to be able to kick those people out now. Because all you got to do is just basically hurt them, hurt the homeless person, and they're going to start packing their shit up. And so what happens is homeless people, whether it is in groups or whether it is a couple individuals just splitting ways and going in different directions, will end up dispersing into the streets. We'll end up dispersing either into the streets of the city or we'll end up dispersing into the streets of suburbs. And then, very conveniently, the suburbanites will start complaining because they're seeing smelly, loud, whatever, homeless people and whatnot. And so
What's
then the
the
police
best
come.
way?
Sorry. Well, I'll just finish the sentence. And so what happens then is then people complain about that, and so then the police come and do what they have to do there. Well, police and council workers, I should say, do what they have to do there, and it just keeps going back and forth. Um, and you sort of have it happen in a sort of like it's cyclical, but it's also around, it's almost like seasons. It's kind of like it's you can almost track it if it wasn't for the fact that it is so disorganized.
And if they can't get them to arc up and get to that point where they can actually have certain boots come through the area, they do what they did at the Spit. They tear up a whole heap of land, slap in a bunch of car parks, call it private
Yes,
property, and say you can't stay there even if
yes.
you're in your own car.
Yes, yes, 100%. It's funny you say that. I can't say I know specifically what, like whatever maybe story you've read, but I in fact was um, in the works of trying to, like, I had their phone numbers. I had a chat to them on the phone. Some of those people who were just before they ended up, no, I think they had just ended up on the Spit, and at the time it was really, because I'm on the north end, they're in Gold Coast, so like really bad, awkward timing of trying to get myself down there. Literally, like the day before I could actually get down there, I'm hearing from them like the police have shown up. Like, please, anything you can do to help us. Exactly what you've just described. I wouldn't be surprised if it was the exact same group of people. And I showed up there the next day, fucking drove as fast as I could, got there, and yeah, it was already they had the fences up. People had already been moved on.
Well, and it wasn't only used for homeless. Like we would have people travel from interstate, even truck drivers would park down there. It would bring money into the economy and the small businesses that were down there, like fish and chip shops and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they've gone and like there was a push down for it to be what was it, a whole brand new bunch of docks and stuff, and it was
Mm.
stopped because of SeaWorld and they didn't want the ships and cruises coming through there. And then they used that as an excuse because they already had the plans from the car parks and went, well, we're going to whack this plan in because it's already been
Mm.
council approved. And that's the
Mm.
same plan that they used. So they only put in the car park because it was only the docks that were shut down.
Interesting, interesting. I didn't even know that bit. That's okay. That's from what I
What's the best
understand
way
as
you could?
well. I was just gonna say, from what I understand as well, Gold Coast police are fucking horrendous to the homeless. I mean, obviously, like we're talking also very specific. So like even like those folks who I was able to talk to, they said like Surfers Paradise were the worst. Like those ones, if they said it felt like these police officers wanted to punch on.
I think
What's
one
the
of the biggest pushes they had there was they used the Commonwealth Games to clear people along, and it's
Yes.
probably what we're about to start seeing here in
Mm-hmm.
Brisbane too with the
Yeah.
Olympics.
They're doing a lot of testing for it. I'll put it like that. They're doing a lot of what can we get away with here and there. And that's why Panegyri is such a why it's become such a pinnacle event because one, it's the only event out of all the events that have happened at Musgrave that has decided to go the direction it has, where it's literally got corpo sponsors and you have to pay to get in now, and all the things cost money now, and it costs so much and it keeps going up in price, all that. Like people who don't even know about the homelessness aspect have already started getting upset with the thing just because of the money aspect. Because it's like really like it was a fun like community thing that I took my kids to. Well, that or like my parents took me to, and I wanted to take my kids. But like, what the fuck's all this now? It's all you just care about the buck. Um, I
What's the
forgot the
best
other
way
thing.
you can help them should you encounter one in the wild? And is it true they're more afraid of you than you are of them?
Sure.
Bro.
I guess it is true they are more afraid of you than you are of them. Just be a fucking human being is honestly the best thing you can do to help. Just don't treat them like they're some like unique case of problem. So many people treat homeless people like it's not even how a person would talk to them. It's literally the fact that you won't talk to them kind of thing. It's like um, I don't mean it's pointing fingers or whatever here. I'm just saying, like, because when it can be confronting sometimes. Like, I've met people who like they're meeting homeless people for the first time, and depending on who you meet, it can be confronting, just in the sense of like the stigmas that you've grown up to understand, to think and feel, and then like it might be you're kind of breaking against that norm that you're used to, or whatever it is. Like, it can be confronting sometimes. Um, but it's like, just be a normal human being to them, honestly. Like, sometimes you will see people from like the charities, they'll go through their script, the script that they're taught to have to read out, and it feels very dehumanizing. Like, if you're a homeless person, you're like, yeah, okay, can I just get my coffee now? Like, I was happy to chat about the footy with you, but now that you're just talking to me like I'm just another client or whatever, it kind of takes the fun out of all this.
Can I jump in?
Please.
Hi, how you going?
Howdy, howdy,
Can you hear
howdy.
me?
Yes, yes, we can.
Hi, hi, how you going? Um, I've actually taken blankets and clothes and bedding to the homeless at Musgrave Park
Oh, yeah,
while
that's
the
right, yeah.
while the pandemic was happening, and I made
Mm.
those council guys open the fence for me so that I could take my things in to the homeless people, and they did. They opened it for me, yeah, and I also interviewed a homeless couple
Mm-hmm.
when the Palestinian rally went there
Mm-hmm.
last year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did a interview of a homeless couple, and then I went up the road and bought them some food
Mm.
because they were invaded that day. It was really horrible, actually. Like, if you looked at the whole big picture of it from the outside, the rally came in with thousands of people and invaded the homeless people's spaces and their tents and were like praying in that in front of their tents, which, that preempted me to do an interview because I asked the homeless guy, how do you feel about this? That's your home. And he said, well, you know, they can do it anywhere else, just not in front of my tent. So, because, he's got rights too,
Mm-hmm.
they've got rights too, and that was their space. And nobody out of that rally thought to bring any items with them for the homeless people. Now, wouldn't that have been an obvious thing to do?
I will just jump in and say, if that's all right, because I am actually familiar with what you're talking about. The Palestine rallies have actually learnt from that, and now whenever they do stuff in Musgrave, they quite often
Yeah,
prepare a whole table, food and whatnot.
good. That's
Yeah,
good.
and like, unfortunately, with any big event, I'll just simply say, obviously, like you were referring to more of like a march, while before we are talking about Pananiri, it's stationary.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, there is that attitude that some people have, or like, I guess more like a lack of attitude or whatever, where it's just, yeah, people don't realize, people seem to don't, not understand that, like, okay, just because a tent isn't like a literal house, doesn't mean you can just like, yes, theoretically, you can just open the door of it and walk in. But like, come on, let's be human beings. Let's like treat each other like human beings. You got to be respectful of that shit.
yeah. Well, that's their space, and that's. And they told me their story about trying to get rooms in boarding houses and that,
Mm.
but they couldn't get a room as a couple. They had to
Mm.
and all that. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Oh no, yeah, there's so many. I've heard so many where it was like, oh, we tried this, and it's like, okay, yeah, that sounds like it. Where did it go wrong? And then it's literally, yeah, one thing, one little detail is the thing that we got
yeah,
kicked or whatever for. People will get kicked out of a lot of those places as well because they have a friend visit. They'll get kicked out if they have a family member visit. Um, and they
yes,
and that will
yeah,
also mean that they can't even get allowed into any of these places because they're all interconnected. You're not allowed into any of them, And also, sometimes it will also impact your chances on with Department of Housing, like with the long list, the long waiting list of getting into housing. Um, it'll prevent you from for 6 months. It'll basically kick you off just because you had a friend come over or
Do
whatever.
y'all do y'all have social workers and food stamps in Australia like they do in the United
We
States?
don't have food stamps, which is weird to be honest. For better or for worse, I don't know why we don't do food stamps. I guess it's just we figured a different solution. What was the first bit? Sorry.
Like social workers, and if y'all don't have
Hmm.
food stamps, like do they have any programs for the people to get food?
So,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt. Yeah, we do have something called food vouchers. So you have to rely on charities, and they either give you boxes of food directly or get food vouchers to our major supermarkets.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It's true. To be fair, I mean it. Maybe this will be a moment of me learning. Is food stamps something that the government gives you, or is it something that is from charities?
It's government.
Yeah. See,
It's
that's different.
government.
Yeah. That's the only reason why I wasn't thinking of the food vouchers thing, but that is true. Yeah, obviously all the different programs can give you like also like fuel vouchers and whatnot, where you kind of get
So those are private charities that are doing the food
yes,
vouchers in
yes,
Australia?
not for profits, churches, um,
Yeah.
quite often the case, which they they're okay. I have my issues with them. I tend to find they kind of fall for they ultimately are for re in they basically recreate the same problem that occurs if you were to do means testing. So they will also not engage with you if you don't meet certain standards, which will most likely
Yeah.
be in the case of a like a church charity. You got to be Christian.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I mean, I've lived all over the United States, but the region that I'm from, we do have a large Christian population. We have a slower population in Louisiana than most of the states, and we have more resources, so we don't have the homeless problem that I've lived in California a few years of my life, and so
Yeah,
it is
well,
very different state by state because like our government and churches work together. Basically, there's enough bed. If somebody's sleeping outside at night in Louisiana, that's usually by choice because they could be bused to a bed for the night or something like that. I mean, they can get to a bed if they want to. So there's very few people sleeping outside here. It's very rare. In our churches, like I know a couple that I've known, the guy since middle school and the girl since college that are married, and they run a church where they help people. Like they don't force them to be Christian, but they help them clean up and find a job, and there's lots of stuff like that around here. But I think in the more heavily populated areas, it just because they're so transient, there's not so much of like a local population anymore in the large cities. It's more people have moved out, people move in. I think it's harder for those areas to figure out what the hell to do because our population increase. Like when my parents were born, there was like 2 billion people on the planet, and it took all of the history of humans to get to 2 billion, and now we're at like 8 billion supposedly, but who knows after COVID and everything and the vaccines. But so I think this is like it's a systemic problem. But then you also have, autism was 1 in 10,000 in the 80s, and now it's like 1 in 50 births. And so it's like they're gonna have so many more people going homeless in the future. It's a very pertinent topic. Like they need to find some solutions because I do see what you're saying. Like it is very important for people to value life and but yeah, like how you're also listing like there's the three levels and then there's the people that are too far gone. So it is a very pertinent topic. I don't know how they're gonna get to solutions.
well, and
Being
like
from Louisiana,
What's that? What were you saying about Louisiana, Interstellar?
being from Louisiana, do the homeless in New Orleans are they like susceptible to vampire predation?
There actually are vampire cults in New Orleans. There is actually articles written. People have interviewed them, and they'll have people volunteer to give them blood. So that is actually a real threat in New Orleans. But New Orleans is like kind of a different animal because it's our only transient city since Katrina. A lot of the local populations moved to the outskirts, to the places that didn't really flood, and the population inside New Orleans is a lot of times people who have moved there that weren't born there, and so that's kind of a different animal that Louisiana is trying to help and fix. That's why they have our National Guard there right now.
Yeah, just for a second, Pix, is your hand up or is it glitched? I don't know if you're trying to speak because it's not coming through.
No, not again.
I think Pix had her hand up before, and it didn't come back down.
Okay.
I
Oh,
thought
cool.
that might be the case too.
Yeah, it can glitch like that sometimes. And
She
hi,
bounced in and out.
sorry. Hi, Newt. You have your hand up.
Yeah, g'day. I just wanted to ask our American friend if New Orleans has werewolves. If they've got vampires, I hope there's a certain werewolf.
It's called the Rougarou in Louisiana.
The Rougarou? What's that?
It's the bad monster.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I think.
Can I just add something to the real discussion here when we talk about the solutions here? And I think this is because the Americans are in here as well. We think about what's happening in California and similarly in some areas in Australia. See, what happens is government creates a problem. They've got to come up with a solution. Now, there's a lot of money to actually be made out of homelessness. So you've got all the NGOs that are in partnership with governments and all of this stuff, and it becomes a revolving door. Um, and so yeah, like I don't think they really want it to go away. Because in Melbourne, our state here, like sorry, our city within our one of our biggest cities, that's kind of like California. It's a mini California. Um, like they basically have like a real emphasis on having open drug taking places and all this stuff that attracts all of this, and then yeah, and then they want to cap all the like attack all like Airbnbs and all this stuff, and yeah, look, they just make it so much worse, and essentially they incentivize it because it's almost like you just line up and get food parcels from charities. So there's no real and it's really short term stuff. So when our programs do have social workers, so we have homelessness programs, but the temporary accommodations are that temporary, and then if it's like a hostel or like a thing like that, they move them into something that's else that is temporary or rips them all of their disability pensions or whatever. It'll take all their money because it's a non-for-profit so it's a revolving door, and a lot of these people's it doesn't adapt to their lifestyles. You're talking about before when Freemason was talking about how like they get kicked out and a whole range of things stuff, or they don't have enough money left and then they can't buy cigarettes and stuff. So it's just like a revolving door because I think just governments are totally making a lot of money out of this. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
also
I would also.
they
Sorry.
I was gonna say, the police kind of operate it like the way that the police ultimately approach it is that the homeless are a reliable group to keep track of, to be aware of what crime is like around the whole city. Because even though the homeless aren't often actually the criminals, or at least hit two bad bitches against each other in sense of crime, like what's worse, stealing a candy bar and I don't know, fucking punching some random guy out or some shit like that. Like homeless people aren't the causer of the worst crimes. You might have like some random case where a guy's like so fucking far gone they kind of just got lucky with a knife or whatever, but like very rare. But it's the crime that happens around them because they're easy targets. No one gives a fuck about them. So crime can just happen to them. Crime happens around them. They are just conveniently in the same place. There's the thing of trap houses. So for those who don't know about trap houses, and no, I don't mean like the cool genre of music trap. I mean where you'll have these um, the boarding it can be anywhere, but like a boarding place or the temporary accommodation ones can be ones where it's temporary or ones where the people are theoretically staying there until they need to leave, whatever. And just so happened to be a convenient little deal made done between a drug dealer and the security. And the drug dealer will somehow be able to come in and he'll offer drugs to whoever will take them for free. And then he'll start charging you because then you're hooked. And a lot of people will get found out this way, but the drug dealer doesn't get in trouble. The person, the homeless person, well, time homeless, well, yeah, they still are ultimately homeless, um, will get kicked out. Or even if like they got kicked out for whatever other unrelated reason, they're now on the streets, dependent, all because they just went into one place that was theoretically supposed to help them.
Can we start a petition?
Hey. Oh god, hold on, guys. I'd just
What's
like to
that?
welcome Pix back. Hopefully, we can hear her this time.
Could I respond to emancipatory really quick?
Um,
Like
uh,
3 sentences. It's not a
sure,
lot.
sure.
So she was bringing up California, and there is a big similarity between Australia and California in that most of
Mm.
your population is on the coastline, and homeless people like to gather on coastlines because they can, hop in the ocean and clean off. And usually there's better temperatures at a coastline than
Well, also
inland.
cities,
So
cities as
yeah,
well
but
is a big part for us
yeah,
because
but
they're
they
all on
like
our
to
coast.
be because there's cities inland in America, but y'all don't really have cities inland in
Yeah,
Australia.
yeah,
You
yeah.
see what I mean?
That's what I mean. That's what. Yeah.
Yeah. So the similarity is that's like you have your homeless are going to be everywhere there because most of your like pretty much all of your Australia population is on coastlines. So that's why that's the big similarity with California. That's why California has so much homeless. It's not just the state is awful. A lot of homeless people migrate there to be homeless there to be in a better condition to be homeless.
Can we start a petition that only allows the police to shoot the homeless with t-shirt cannons?
I'm
Oh
sure they'll
god.
still find a way to turn that into a very deadly weapon.
Yeah, I'm sure as well. But yeah, go ahead, Pix.
Cheers. Can you hear me this time?
Yeah, we got you.
Yeah.
I just spent too much time with you today, Rational. It kicked me out. I was going to go back to where Freemason was saying that a lot of people are opting to stay on the street, unfortunately, because of the runaround that they are given just to be able to
Mm,
get help. So you've
mm,
got couples with kids, but the females are only allowed to go into a hostel with the children. You can't have dads go into
mm,
hostels with children because they're
mm-hmm.
males only. So it's also forcing breakdowns in couples and relationships and mental health, and then the trust factors that they're copying from all these different agencies that aren't really there to actually help them. They're there to pass that ticket over, get that
Mm.
paycheck at the end of the day, because we all know what Red Cross is fucking about. And Red Cross is the biggest dealer when it comes to apparently helping our homeless in Australia. Uh, a lot of this is actually impacting these people as well, because then as soon as they go, well, we can't split up the family, we need to try and keep some sort of routine going and stuff like that, they also get kicked off the waiting list for emergency housing because they didn't take that opportunity of a roof.
Yes, that's another thing. Not even just with emergency ones, but like just the what is it? The Department of Housing wait list on its own. I've talked to quite a few different people where they've got conditions, disabilities ultimately. Um, and it's they're only just able to maybe like have their drugs or whatever they need to take prescribed, and like thank God, because otherwise they couldn't afford them. But whatever places will be offered to them, um,
The
it
Spring Hill,
won't
for
be.
example,
Hmm.
at the Fortitude Valley there, Spring Hill. So they've got like 3 month temporary housing accommodation there. They've
Yep.
got the males and the females right next door to each other. Males aren't allowed to have children there, and only certain aged females are allowed to have their children there, and only for three
Mm.
months. But they've also got a 7 o'clock curfew on it, and they're in the heart of Fortitude Valley. So any of these like family members
Mm-hmm.
and people that are going out trying to get work, taking kids to school, or even trying to look at houses, by the time that they're traveling public transport or whatnot, even even just in their own cars back, they're missing curfew, and then bang, they're getting kicked out or kicked off
Yep.
lists as well, even though they try to do the right thing.
Yeah, and a lot of the times that yeah, they'll come home, be told, yeah, you're leaving. And be like, what? What did I do? How can I be leaving because I didn't do a thing, in a sense? Um, yeah, there's a lot of and unfortunately, a lot of these rules have come about because they were apparently to help them. And I think a lot of it is, frankly, because a lot of these rules or regulations, not regulations, like guidelines and what, I can say from top to bottom, but like just at any level would be nice if they actually had a homeless person in the room. Or someone who's experienced homelessness, I should say. Obviously, you can't just like go grab your local homeless person and bring him into your office. But like, have a
I
homeless
mentioned the
person.
Springwood one because I was one of those mums that had to make that decision with a
Right.
child back about oh god, nearly 20 years ago. Thank God
Mm-hmm.
now. But I speak to people that are still in that same hostel and using
Mm-hmm.
it, and it has the same mandate, the same expectations.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to go down to a hall downstairs at 5 p.m. in the afternoon to have your dinner. You've got to be there at 8 a.m. in
Yep.
the morning to have your breakfast. If your kids weren't up at that time, tough tits, you're out. If your kids were too loud, out you get. And then we've also got women that are pregnant or small raising like circumstances and
Mm-hmm.
stuff. As you said, not DV. It shouldn't have to be DV to get it. But majority of the people that get pushed into these situations are, oh, you hit DV. Okay, you've got a story that backs up our paperwork. Not that it's not worthy of it, but they need that story for the paperwork
Yes.
to fit.
Yes. Yes. And it's really it like a lot of homeless people like over the course of this thing they start to develop, as you can imagine, if they did not already, a bit of a crude sense of humor. And like I've met, just from the story you're telling me, I can remember a girl who I met. I mean, she's probably an adult now. She was like 17. This was like late last year. And she was simply homeless because she was previously in prison because juvie, because she had pushed her abusive mother, extremely abusive mother, downstairs, and um lady broke like a leg or whatever, leading this girl to be put in juvie. Whatever, like Sam's seems like an injustice was done there, but okay, that's that. She's been put into juvie. She comes out and she can't even get into so many of these like emergency accommodations, whatever, because she's not 18. Oh, well, okay. There's the youth homeless. They're all filled. Um, and it's just like, bro, I just need a studio. I just need like, there's something that they've done in, I think it's Seattle and in America, that I really like, and it's called like little houses. Like it's really simple name, like little house villages or something like that. But it's literally just like they just make a bunch of shacks, basically, but they've got locked doors, and it's just like it's kind of like an office room where like it's got a bed, but it's got like a desk where you can put like whatever stuff you've got with you, but it's got a locked door. And it's that simple, because whether you like it or not, and this is the bullshit that we're having here in Brisbane, is our council is constantly saying, "Oh, but we're helping them get into accommodation." We can't believe that all these people who are taking issue with us would want them to live out on the streets. How dare you? You're the bad people because you want them to live in a tent out on the street. No, it's not that we don't want them. It's not that we want them to live out in a tent out on the street. It's we recognize the fact that if they don't, they die. There is nowhere else for them to go. So like you have to eventually do something. I drive back and forth around mainly on the north side, sometimes get onto the, like when I say south side, I mainly mean like Musgrave and whatnot. Um and you can just look out like a bit of forest that's like in between some bit of townage, whatever suburbs. You may notice a tent. It's a homeless person. There is nowhere they can go otherwise. There is nothing else they can do. In again Brisbane, oh, not so much Brisbane, but Moreton Bay, and I think in Gold Coast, it is illegal to sleep in your own car. Sleep in your own car. I don't know about y'all people. There are times I've slept in my car where I just had to overnight. I just had to. And now you can, like, you don't even have to be homeless, and you can actually get fined for this. Now imagine that you are homeless. How do you pay that fine? A $700 fine, I believe it is. What the fuck? Mate, that's rent. That could be a guy's rent. for fuck's sakes. It 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 we just we want to live in the council in Brisbane wants to live in this fantasy where like if we just let the Department of not even the Department of Housing, but just let the charities deal with it, it'll be fine. But they're going to these places going, shit, there's nowhere we can put them. Okay, and then they go home, and then eventually these moments like Panegyri Festival happens, and then the police have to come. It just gets exasperating.
I do want to go to Kilo. I don't believe I've had you in my spaces or spoken to you before, but go for it, mate.
Like, fuck. Yeah. I just want to ask about the how's the housing crisis in Australia for
Shit.
homeless people? Because like I know in America that like it's been studied that there are more like abandoned houses and foreclosed homes in America, and they outpopulate the whole like homeless population thing in America. So like, you know, is there like a problem in the eh, like in the housing crisis of Australia to where like y'all don't have enough buildings and homes to like house y'all homeless, or like is it like or is it like a straight up choice for like for certain people to like choose to be homeless, like at least like in Australia?
So, what I'll first say is I fundamentally refuse to believe that anyone chooses to be homeless just simply because they can't be fucked. That's some bullshit canard that has just been perpetuated by government, put it simply, because how much easier is it to convince people that government shouldn't be responsible for helping the homeless by telling them that homeless people want to be homeless? So I just fundamentally think that that's always a bullshit line, especially because, and you'll find actually sometimes people will be really disingenuous and go up to a homeless person and be like, "Do you like it out here? Do you prefer being homeless?" And they'll find the one guy who's so mentally gone that he'll be like, "Yeah, I prefer it out here," and be like, "Yeah, see, they prefer it out here," and it's like, no,
Yeah.
his life is so like filtered that
Yeah.
you can't
Yeah.
really take what they say
Hey.
and just go, "That's
Oh,
shit's
sorry.
big."
I'm going to bed. It was really nice chatting. Hope y'all have a good one.
Yeah, no, like
Night.
the actual sort of like just gaslighting in sort of like how like the optics of homeless people, right? And all this
Yeah.
shit. Just like and everything that's put onto them. Like I'm pretty sure you also mentioned sort of like in that other conversation we kind of had that it's just like a lot of people actually turn to drugs after they end up on the streets and it's
Mm.
just like
Yep.
it was like no, they were homeless because they were drug addicts, and it's just like all this fucking gaslighting, and it's just in general, it's just absolutely fucking insane.
Yeah.
Um,
No, it's funny. I quite often will have people ask me, "Oh, how many homeless people have you come across and they're just totally drug fucked or whatever?" And I always just say, less people have been on drugs and then gone into homelessness than people who have been homeless and then got onto drugs. Because, well, I mean, I explained the whole thing about the trap house shit already. That's honestly the most common reason.
Final question. What's a canard?
It's just like a bullshit lie. That's
okay, emancipatory.
Yeah, I do have a question, but I have a quick comment first for Kilo into your question around
fuck, I'm
Australia's
getting the weirds.
homelessness. Put it this way, we have had like over the last at least 5 years, we've had like 3 million people imported into our country.
Oh no.
And so
Doing the
out of a
thing.
country of now 27, 28 million, there's at least nearly 250 to 300,000 homeless peoples roughly every night. And that's probably only visible homeless, not really invisible homeless. There's two distinctions. But our housing crisis is rapidly rising. It's probably going to get really, really bad because essentially, obviously, if we have more people coming in than we do housing, and so there's this massive push on actual supply. But in the meantime, they're importing thousands and thousands of people every day. So we've got rents, like everyone's being like, there's massive lineups for rentals and stuff where there is work, in areas where there's work and stuff like that. So it's a massive issue in Australia. And we also have our friends across the pond in New Zealand coming here because their economy is crap. So they're coming to Australia. So all the Kiwis are coming here as well as other people from India and all this thing. There's that. My question is to Freemason. I don't know if you were going to get to it, but demographics. I just want to point out. I don't like, because I've traveled a little bit in Europe and I've been to the US, and obviously I live in Australia. I'm Australian. What I've noticed when I travel the Western world, predominantly it's actually local native born population that are the visible homeless. It's not necessarily immigrants per se, and that's very important. Like, there is obviously in Australia, there's the Indigenous, and in America there would be your African Americans. But in terms of yeah, the demographics, it's predominantly white people or some Indigenous like, yeah, traditional, whatever you want to call them. And that's really important to highlight. It's only shifted slightly in parts of Europe where the NGOs are working to give out tents and create these migrant camps. But that's a little bit different in some areas of Europe. But yeah, it's the demographics are also noteworthy because we don't see immigrants, the visible homeless in our cities. Were you going to raise that, or is it you noticed the same thing, Freemasonry?
Um, I'll just say, I'm getting really weird audio. I've had this happen before, and all I've had to do is just drop out and come back in. I did hear everything you're saying. It's just it gets really like scratchy. I'm just gonna quickly jump out and then jump in. I can address. That's okay. Scratchy. I'm just gonna quickly jump out and then jump in, and then I can address if that's okay.
Cool.
Oh, y'all should keep out those damn Indians. Just saying.
You got another comment, Pix, or is it just glitching out for me again?
Nah, yeah, no, I was going to add on to what I mean. Patient, that's what your name is. I hope I didn't fuck it up then. Was saying is yeah, thanks, Todd. That there is a priority list on these people that are coming in on humanitarian visas because in that means tests and whatnot being done properly and having so many stories that waiver the line to get into emergency housing, every single one of these people that are coming through the gates on a plane, on a boat, no matter what it is, has the story that fits the paperwork to get them into the housing versus the Australian. The Australians, oh, well, you know, I got kicked out as a young kid because my mum was a drug addict. I went into foster homing. I took some things, ended up in juvie, you know, had a bad trot or whatever the fuck the story is. They're not good enough stories versus, oh, I had bombs coming down on me.
Yeah, 100%. That probably explains that a little bit. But also, it's interesting because there was a story in Germany where um, a, a particular group targeted infrastructure to power in Berlin, and the immigrants, asylum seekers, whatever, got moved to a luxury hotel, and the locals had to pay $70 to go and stay in some other hotel in a hotel somewhere. So yeah, I think yeah, that would explain it a little bit. Yeah.
Well, there's that. I don't know how. I don't. I'm not. I don't want to go deep into it because the conversation is around homelessness. But I'll just brief it while we're waiting for Freemason to come back. It's more so on the fact that they're also brought over under the humanitarian visa promise that we will put a roof over their head. We will give you better quality of life. We'll get you trained. We'll get you into the workforce. We'll get you ready to go back to your country. Bullshit. And it's all of that and those incentives. I mean, fuck, we're giving them free swimming lessons and English lessons. And I'm not depicting any particular person, just anyone that comes into this country at the moment under one of those special category fucking visas. They're getting pushed through the systems before the Australian. And that's one of the harshest parts about it. That
harm people coming if you can't provide housing and you eventually run out anyway. So it's putting them into situations. You have international students who don't have the money they're supposed to have according to their visa, so they're going and getting packages and all this stuff and living 11 to a room. That's no way to live either. And so it kind of, yeah, it's around governments reining in and taking back control, not lobby groups, not NGOs, and all of this other
Yeah,
stuff.
for example, just before the end of last year, the Australian humanitarian visa or 3 special category visas can go up to a food bank, no questions asked, just show your visa and get free food. How does that work when we've got homelesses out there on the street that have to fit every single box? If they go to Red Cross, they have
got my hands busy at the moment, but I think he's just having connection problems, or it's just my space fucking glitching out. I have no idea why, but it could have something to do with my phone battery being low or some shit. Like these sites are getting retarded.
So that amazing engineering that's going on behind the scenes. Absolutely. Um, where do you want to take this rationale until Freemasonry pops up? Did you want to continue with just random questions or discussion that people can have, or what do you want to take?
I was like trying to think of the actual I had a line going down there and then I forgot. I was like, oh fuck. But it's basically they also sort of clout all these people into the cities and stuff where infrastructure is a lot harder to actually clear for zoning and stuff like that for housing. And it's just like if we and when they're brought in, they don't really want to go to our rural areas and shit where we can actually develop a whole lot easier. And it's just a whole lot of bullshit. And it's just like they're brought into for all this stuff, and we have the backpackers helping on farms and stuff. But it's just like, you know, we kind of need to spread this shit out more instead of like just making a cesspool inside of our major cities, because it doesn't make them look nice for one, and it's horrible for the people for two. And then you also have the people who come in on these like immigration visas and shit. Just they also get homeless. It's not even just our own people. It's like the people who come here because of our sort of like way of life, you know. And it's just so fucking.
Yeah, I have to say these agents are predators in India, and that you do have to know. Yeah, they lie to the people. They've been caught up in being lied to by the agents that brought them here, and then they've had to, at risk of not being accepted into the uni or being pushed out of the uni because of because of they were made promises and stuff like that, and they made promises of this utopia, but then when they get here, like, yeah, they it's very expensive. Australia and United States and these countries are really expensive places to go.
Well, it's kind of like how the American chickie was saying before. Like a lot of Australia is built up on its coastlines, and we do have the availability of building up or becoming more states and getting more numbers and vaster economy building through the country. But we've got these types of people that are getting slammed straight into our city lines because that's where the training facilities are. They're getting slapped into uni for free while we're going up in HECS debts and shit like that. They want us to be landing the foundations while they pull everyone else through, and it's just it's unfathomable. But we all know it's fucking going on.
You ever thought about just simply closing our borders?
You know, we're like an island, right?
It doesn't matter. Even island nations have
Our
borders.
government is
Just
bringing
close
them
them.
in, mate, by the plane load, by the boat load. Our government.
Oh
If I
damn.
could,
Yeah.
if I could send someone over there to man the border right now, I would send about a 10 bloody 100,000 people there right now to man the border, but unfortunately the government won't fund it. So there you go.
And y'all government seem to be like a joke. Like, no disrespect.
Our government's in bed with your government. Where you been?
I mean, but yeah, but shit. I mean, you got to think about it. Like, we have like tighter border security.
people are openly stating online to our faces, in our streets, on our TVs, that they are here to replace us.
No, I understand you because like I don't hear the fuss voice and stuff like that. The thing is, like of course, like I know like I I I know Australia has water surrounded itself and stuff like that, but at the same time, like y'all can still like have tighter borders even despite being like a watery nation, if that's the best way for me to put it. So trust me, I want Australia to be Australia because like I don't want y'all to be replaced by these other people groups that's like you said telling you to your face, oh, we're going to outbreed you, we're going to replace you, and it's nothing you can fucking do about it. Obviously it is if y'all government and y'all military just tighten the fuck up with this border shit.
Kilo, it's more about our visa system. It's not necessarily illegal immigration just coming onto the island per se. It's more legal
Mm.
immigration via the visa system.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, that's
Well,
what I meant by our government's bringing them in. They're using deals with the UN, and they're bringing in
Mm.
humanitarian visas, and then they're bringing in skilled workers, and then they're also bringing in etc. of student visas, which are then being expired, and they're switching over to oh, I'm just going to work for 6 months, and they disappear, and they're on our land doing whatever they're doing, cash in hand. The same types of issues you guys have with the people that do come over your border. I can agree on one of the things that you did say it would be nice to go back to the 90s new millennia type of border control that we had, because there was a lot more vast checking when it came to giving people free reign on our country land.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And
Yeah,
then
so
like
sorry, it's also sort of like a part of the problem with so our vetting system has lowered so much that it's just like there is sort of no like checks and stuff, and it is like the government's sort of like just cucking us and its own people, so it's like basically selling out our country, and that's the problem. And I get like there's sort of that international barrier, and I know like I have I have a lot of Americans that do, and sort of like international people that do come into my spaces and stuff, and there is sort of like a lot of that contextual misunderstandings in what's being said, and we can get a bit aggressive and feisty and all that sort of stuff, because we and assertive, because we have a sort of small poppy syndrome when it comes to that, because we are a small country, we are a small demographic at the moment of sort of like natural citizens and natural
You have a right
Australians.
to. You have a right to be upset. You have a right to be upset. You know.
It would
Yeah.
be nice to see us grow, though. Like when you look at the age of us compared to America, we could have done a lot more in this country rather than just grab our coastlines. And I think with that, that's where a lot of our population could grow if we actually managed to spread out and put infrastructure further out rather than just, dead towns, no schools, no business, no infrastructure at all for anyone to even stay out there.
Well, in order for you to spread your population, you're going to need to populate more. Like you got to reproduce if you
facts.
want to produce.
Mm-hmm. Just
We're
have more
also one
set.
of the countries with the highest cervical cancer and endometriosis issues in women as well. And we have to take that in consideration as well, that the economy is working that hard and we do have people homeless. Who wants to sit there and go, I'm going to have a child right now while I'm working 3 jobs?
Well, that's the thing too. Is like it's just slavery with extra steps. When people are working 3 jobs, barely making ends meet, there's problems that are not just like how do you get to work. Like you do realize that the rich like greed. It's like a classical trait of that like class of people, and sometimes you got to slap them around and like put them in their fuck face. Metaphorically speaking, we don't have to put up with this type of shit.
I do want to welcome back Freemasonry. I can see that you got back in. Don't worry, I yell at my technology all the time.
Freemason cop the yeah nah from from bloody Twitter.
Yeah, nah. That's all right. I wonder if Newt has anything to say, because he does have his hand up.
Oh, thanks for that. Yeah, I was just going to say that there is an imaginary. See, the thing about building in the middle, because I've always wanted to do that. I think it's a great idea. Stick out a nuclear plant and have a satellite city. But then there's this line apparently that runs across Australia from east to west. I think it's called the Goiter line or something. But it's basically Goiter, and there's no farming beyond that. There's no viability. So until we can sort of get an industry happening in the middle of nowhere, because you've got all the mines and stuff, and they're great until the mine no longer produces. So yeah, I've always thought that it'd be awesome to have these massive satellite cities in the middle of Australia. But I guess until there's an industry, it's just going to be empty land. Because yeah, we could use twice as many people in the country if we had use of that land, but it's nothing.
Yeah, I did see there was some sort of like plan to kind of make it livable and all that, but they haven't implemented it. Just like a lot of sort of like infrastructure zoning and shit. Like they had like these plans for years and years, but there's nothing done about it because there's, I think, too many fucking red tape and lines and shit to get past it all, and it's just a whole lot of bullshit with everything that's going on.
100%. It's where the government's investing money as well, because we can see China can build all these empty cities in preparation to move populations in different areas. And like, yeah, because their government invests the money there whilst robbing the West.
And part of that red tape is you've got people standing down on traditional ownership of fucking lands, and then you've got the government and the crown still land banking certain areas because there may be certain resource minerals or oils underneath it, and they won't do anything with it until it becomes that mining town, and then they'll build off it from there. And that's all the bullshit red tape that that holds them back. So honestly, what do you think they'd do if we just grabbed a bunch of concreters and started going out and spraying some of those spray dome houses and just started building? Really?
Going to
Like we've got closed schools and closed jails, which they could
Yeah.
repurpose into emergency housing or emergency small term accommodation and whatnot very easily. And there's even
Mhm.
a bunch of gentlemen tradies and parents down in a small town down in New South Wales. I shared this live to him when you jumped up because I thought he'd want to come in and talk to you. He's actually pushing on the New South Wales government to be able to turn 3 schools in rural areas into emergency housing because they have tent cities there. But the red tape that hits is no, we would rather turn the old there's a plan to turn the old Long Bay jail into in an emergency accommodation thing, but that's also a plan that's been set but won't actually take off ground for another 4 years. And from just from what I can work out, it comes down to the red tapes of the planning, the fact that they've got to find the specific government approved builders and tradies to do it that puts the money back in. Whereas this guy's got just a bunch of tradies that are willing to just do the work, get it done, not for a tax write off, just to get in there and do a bit for their community, and they won't give them the okay.
Can I just make a point, Freemasonry? I think it's to make it more, there's arguable that it's to make it more palpable for the community because you do, that they're trying to have a percentage of new, like of new massive builds to be sort of social housing. Because if you just said we're going to do a whole bunch of public housing, like say at like your more affluent suburbs, there's a big stinker like that we don't want that here. So it's not just red tape, you also have community backlash. If you think, well, this massive thing here is going to be social housing and that they genuinely don't want that there. And it does change the nature of an entire suburb. Like, and it's also safety as well, because we've had people with mental illness burn down houses without the proper
Not
support.
just burning down houses. People that are struggling, they are not usually too good about maintaining the property. Well, in the United States, they got a program for the homeless. They call it the penitentiary. Yeah, I mean, if you fuck up on the streets out here, that's where you go. You guys, you don't have that much of a. Well, you talk about building houses because you ain't got enough. Oh, well, what's the percentage of your population in prison? Maybe you should look at homeless. Do that should be important to you.
I'm just going to quickly butt in and say thank you to Rational for holding this space. Thank you, Freemason, for coming in. I'm heading off to do dinner and some late night shopping with the kids with the gift vouchers. Would love to chat to you more, Freemason, down the track. So if you do hit the DMs, I'll definitely find that info from last year and I'll send it through to you. But just one of those things that you were just hitting on is one of the biggest write-offs with our government is they will have something and then they will give it to a business that they claim is for the people, like when they give it to Red Cross or they give it to a charity like Ronald McDonald House. But then there's those circumstances of criteria that you have to fit for that business that don't actually fit the criteria of emergency under humanitarian value. So that's where the businesses are taking over it, and that's quite a concern. But big love to you all for an open chat and not getting heated and being open with everyone. Thank you very much, Rational. Have a good night, all.
All right.
I do have to push back a little bit, Freemasonry, and what you're talking about, how you've got all these empty places. But at the same token, to mention that without touching on population growth, kind of me seems a little bit reductionist. I mean, it's kind of like not addressing the full picture. I mean, and it's also a lot of foreign ownership to these places, which is why they're effing abandoned. And there's a whole bunch of housing commissions that aren't sort of up to scratch and kept closed by the governments as well, state governments. But there's also the population goddamn crisis at the same time. Population growth, dude. We have thousands and thousands of people coming into this country every day. We have population
And at
crisis.
the same time, you're not reproducing at like replacement levels.
Well, we don't need to. We don't. We've got enough people here to satisfy all the skills we need. We don't need to.
What? You must have it twisted about like the purpose of being alive.
No.
So
Well,
like, sorry, on sort of like on the topic of like bringing people in, it's not just the fact that we're bringing people in. We're bringing people in and sending them into overpopulated areas in the first place, which is actually more expensive renting and all that sort of stuff, And then they also go to sort of like the smaller towns that are also overpopulated with higher priced renting.
look, I'm sorry. There's no way. I don't care
Hold
what
on.
statistics you've got. There's no way. I'm not being disrespectful. There's no way you can humour me to say that population growth isn't impacting, because ever since we've had an influx of immigrants, our housing crisis has absolutely gone absolutely skyrocketing. There's no way you can tell me population growth has not got an impact.
Well, I mean, not for nothing. I mean, you talk about 0.1. I don't know where the hell you got that number, buddy, but I don't even live in Australia. I live in the United States, but ever so the last 10 years or so, the immigration has pretty much gotten out of control in the entire Anglosphere. The inflation's gone fucking crazy. So what are you talking about 0.1%?
Well, can you explain why there's like hundreds of people lining
Us,
up for one single
you-
rental?
You're a fucking communist Freemason. You got no skin in this game.
Sorry, yeah, like I do like one person speaking at a time, and sort of like people do get hot mic'd when mics are left open as well. So I would appreciate it if people did mute when they weren't speaking. And also sort of on that topic, right, on sort of like the percentage, if we sort of like I guess reverse sort of a lot of the like normalize our sort of immigration like state, right, it the sort of percentage would go down, like for housing and shit would be like 2 point something fucking percent each year, which is a large amount if you kind of really think about it in the big picture and in the long run. So if we kind of normalize the population in that sort of sense, like it would actually affect the pricing to go down.
So why add more to it?
No, like yeah, those systems still exist, but there is a correlation of the pricing and everything, and that's sort of like you got to look at it in all.
Shut the fuck up,
Yeah,
you common piece of shit, mate.
okay.
Nah, fuck you, you fucking dog grub piece of shit rat.
Okay, okay, hold on. Sorry, Alice, but like it, yeah, you can kind of make that point, right? But if we kind of get normalize the population, the systems, yes, are obviously faulty, but it also would lower food pricing and everything that kind of causes sort of like everything else. There's a whole lot of correlation, and it's not just about housing prices and shit like that. It's also about the food prices and the inflation that kind of was inflicted with with our infrastructure and our our eco fucking economics and everything, right? Like I did do a little bit of research, probably not as much as you, on sort of like the actual topic of homelessness, but I looked more into sort of like the statistics of inflation itself. Yeah, no, it's yeah, there is a lot more. I'm not saying black, I'm saying yes, but I'm just saying it can be lowered in sort of these other different ways, as well as sort of reinventing the system that does need to be reinvented. And I'm also going, what was another topic? Oh, Shit. I had another point to make, but I can't. I forgot it. Oh god. Go. Nah, it's not good. Go Oz.
Hey, look, you mentioned that the system was already at breaking point before they started this mass immigration shit, mate. So, and you said it doesn't make any difference if we stop immigration or not. You're a fucking idiot, mate. Because what? No, shut your fucking mouth, cunt. Right? No, I'm not having a rant. I'm having a fucking point being made here. Right now, the point is, you said that it was already at breaking point before the COVID bullshit, mate. So why would you keep bringing people in and take up all the fucking services that should be for people like myself who fucking can't get housing and shit like that, mate? I've been here longer than these chocos. So what are you going to do when people like myself come and drag these fuckers out of the house, mate, and take it over?
Sorry.
Well, it's
The
got to
other
do
point
with
I was
your
going to.
fucking spastic
Sorry.
head, mate.
Sorry, Oz. The other point I just remembered, I'm just going to interject. My other point was going to be made, like, I myself, I was making, let's say, like 2K a fortnight and shit, and I still couldn't get into renting because you need to have a 40% sort of amount of the renting price to actually get a rental. Not only that, you're competing with a whole lot amount of other people who are trying to get a rental themselves. And I've only when I lived at a home, I could only actually rent rooms and stuff. So like I had to share share housing, which is like I'm fine with that because it was like good people most of the time, good people that I knew. But it, there is a whole sort of like economical problem sort of surrounding that, you know. Then it's just like I get what the point you're trying to make, Freemasonry, but you just also got to remember that that isn't the only cause, right? There is a whole lot of other statistics involved that does involve overpopulation as well as, and you, I know you can see that, like you don't have to kind of push back
Mate, it's just a fucking comment. It's just fucking off, mate. No, you're a fuckwit,
well,
mate. You're a fucking dead shit, mate. Absolute dead shit. You're some heavy shit, mate. Yeah.
Freemasonry. I'm just going to quickly mute. Sorry, Russell. I just have to intervene. Look, Freemasonry, you have to understand this is a very hot button issue, and it's undeniable what's in front of our eyes with the amount of people that are coming into the country, lining up for housing and rentals, and how things have changed, and how and all the things happening in Europe and parts of America. There's no denying it. So we respect your point of view, but it's a hot button issue because people are literally struggling out there. Okay. And when you're talking a 1 bedroom little unit is $600 to $800 a week, we've got a fucking problem. And it hasn't always been like that. And yes, we're aware of the immigration changes. Thank you.
I was also gonna say that you're right, like overpopulation globally is like just a fucking canard, it's in your words, because like there are places like sort of like probably their own countries and shit that they can live in, and there's like space all over the world for people to actually sort of live in and all that sort of stuff. But when you start bringing people in that can't hold the infrastructure, like if you think about it, from COVID, everything stopped. Our housing building stopped, fucking our labor force stopped, everything stopped. And then we started bringing people in once it was all lifted. And like, it didn't line up. So it's just like we didn't keep up with the people that were being brought in. And that's the entire problem with the percentages that's rising, as well as sort of like, I guess, the worth of the American dollar sort of probably rising it. And, you know, there's all the fuel prices that were risen, like rise. And, you know, it's just all that sort of, it all comes into one. It's a correlation. It is like interconnected in a way, and you just get it. You also got to accept that fact, as well as sort of like the systematic problems that we have, because we have a lot of fucking systematic problems. Like if you think about the NDIS and fucking everything else, and benefits and all that sort of stuff.
Is this a 1v1? What the fuck is going on, bro?
Oh, they're
Yeah.
courting fucking scumbag grub communist motherfucking dog.
Like, I don't mean to interject, but like, Jesus Christ, does anybody else get to talk, or is this just a Freemasonry versus rational?
Hold on. Hold on. Like I do get it, Max. I was gonna get to your hand, but it was he has the right
No,
of
don't worry
response
about
in
it.
sort of
You know what? He can go.
no, it was just the right of response, that's all.
Oh, shut up, you fucking filthy communist fuck. You are a fuckwit, mate. You are a filthy rat. You suck people off for fucking money, don't you?
Can we stop the fighting, please? Like, it has been very amicable. It has been peaceful, like, and we have been able to kind of do this, like, in a sort of more, I guess, talking point based. And I know others that, like, all I know is, like, everyone has gone through a lot and everyone is struggling. Like, I have 3 people in my house and we struggle with groceries and we struggle with sort of like fuel and keeping up with our fucking car payments and like and our electricity bill and everything. Like everyone is struggling in some sort of aspect, and yes, some are luckier than others, and like in sort of like the way that they have their lives going for them. But a lot of people have gone through a lot of shit, and obviously like there's just different I guess I'd say like down in South Victoria, in Victoria, South Australia and shit. They've copped a lot down there, and I'm pretty sure, is that where you were based? Oz, down south?
Yeah, I'm in Melbourne.
Yeah, and you just gotta sort of remember like all these sorts of other facts as well. Like some places have been worse than others, and it's not always shown. And our media is very biased in, and I know some people are like, oh, it's not, but it is. Like a lot of shit isn't shown, a lot of shit isn't said, a lot of shit isn't out there.
This guy's rhetoric, it's so dismissive. Oh, you shouldn't, you're a fuckwit for being concerned about it because the stats are that low, it won't even concern anything. Get fucked, you idiot, mate. Oh, I think you're a fuckwit, mate, and there's nothing you can say or do that will change my mind on that aspect. So there. I'll fucking ruin this conversation. Fucking oath I will, mate. I do. I feel it's justified because you're a
Okay,
dog and you're a fucking
okay,
grub.
okay, guys. Look, I respect you a lot, Oz, and like that has I've had my heated discussions with Freemasonry. I've had my heated posting wars with Freemasonry myself. But like this conversation has been very productive, and and it's just like there are personal aspects to this shit, right? And I would like sort of more of the personal attacks to kind of be more down, because I know people have problems with other people, but let's try and keep it more
Or
productive,
maybe he
please.
shouldn't personally attack other people by recording them and put it on fucking live stream. You fucking
Yeah,
rat.
that's I did
Shut up, rat.
I did
Look, just kick me
look
out of my ass because
look.
or whoever, because I'm going to keep harassing this cunt until he fucking leaves.
I did invite him.
Or kick me. I don't give a fuck,
Okay,
mate. Do it.
just I
I'm a
did
fucking
invite
filthy,
Freemasonry,
filthy
and I
rat,
did invite the
communist
recording.
scumbag, mate.
Okay.
Dog, mate. Dog, mate. Have a listen to yourself. Fucking dog. You're a filthy fucking dog, mate. You've got no idea. So am I, mate. You're a fuckwit. I'll give you a
I'm
fucking
sorry,
trade off.
okay.
Eh?
No, Mason, no,
I'll do a devil.
no. Fuck. God damn it. This is not what we're gonna do. Fucking hell. Alright? This has been a huge fucking problem everywhere, and I spoke out about this yesterday. I'm sick of this shit. Okay? Oh my god.